Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Maddie and it is time for a monthly wrap-up. The first monthly reading wrap-up of 2023. It is the end of January and I had a really good, unexpectedly good reading month. I read 15 books. I feel really happy with 15 books. I did not plan to read 15 books. I'm not setting that expectation for every month. I need to get the books, so pause. Okay, I put all of the books behind me. The first book I read was Waking Olivia. I started the year with a bang. This book was incredible. This book is about Olivia and she is a track star. She has had some intense, deep trauma in her past. We don't know what the trauma is yet, and of course this is no spoilers. We don't know what that trauma is, but she ends up going to this new school to run track on their team. But due to this past trauma, she actually has recurring nightmares that lead her to run in her sleep. She runs in her sleep frequently, so she joins this new track team at this new college with a new coach and ends up running in her sleep multiple times in a row. Her new coach, Will, he's like the assistant coach, so the age difference isn't too big here, but her new coach takes notice and is like, he's kind of fed up with her. He doesn't really like her attitude at the beginning, but he's like, hey, why is she coming to practice so tired? Why is she coming to practice with her, like, cuts on her feet? And he takes notice. He ends up kind of watching her apartment in the middle of the night and taking concern for her and like, why is she doing this? Why does she keep coming? She must be sneaking out. She must be partying, whatever. He kind of helps her through it. You also see Olivia's character development blossom in this book. She starts out as an angry character, a resentful character. She has a lot of pent up anger and aggression and trauma, and Will, her coach, ends up helping her out through it. If you like contemporary romance and you want something new, a little bit different, I could not recommend this book more. I really couldn't. And I started out the year so good with a 5-star read. The next two books I actually listened to on Libby, and this is something that I like doing recently. It's really random. I go on Libby and I go to available now and I just see what audiobooks are available at that moment, and I kind of just scroll for a little bit. I might get like 2 or 3 pages in before I find something that I actually want to read, but when I do find something, I'm like, okay, this is going to be the book that I'm going to listen to driving to work. I've been doing that recently and it's helped a lot. 1, get through some books, and 2, kind of knock off random books from my TBR. So the second book that I read was 5 Survive by Holly Jackson. This is a new release also. I read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, that whole trilogy. It's one of my favorite YA mystery trilogies. That was an incredible series. Okay, it's a little bit different. I think it's a standalone. I think that's all it's gonna be. But 5 Survive is about this group of friends, 5 people. They're going on like this lake road trip kind of thing, and one of their tires gets blown on this random side road that one of the characters made them take. So once they get like pulled over trying to fix their tire, they end up like having a sniper almost shoot down their car 1 or 2 times, and then it's like, okay, what's going on? You find out a lot of stuff about each of the characters and you're like, okay, one of the characters knows something. The main character was involved in knowing something she shouldn't know, and that led to other actions in the book. Now there obviously, I feel like in books like these, there's characters who, there's like the funny character, the character who thinks he knows everything, the quiet one, there's the mad one, like they all fit into a specific category, so it was a little predictable. I didn't love this book. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. I thought it was a good listen because again, my drive to work is 25 minutes one way, 25 minutes back, so I'm driving like 50 minutes a day. So great to listen to books on the drive. So because I was listening to this one, I didn't mind it. If I was reading it, I think I would have gotten bored really quick. There was a middle part in this book too. The plot kind of just staggered. You were like, okay, what's gonna happen? Can we just get to the point? And that's kind of how I felt throughout the book. So it was okay. It was good. It was quick. It was fun. Nothing like A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. That series just kind of has a special place in my heart. This one was good. but it wasn't great. It wasn't my favorite Holly Jackson. So the next audiobook after that one that I picked up was Recursion by Blake Crouch. And last year around this time, or maybe it was 2 years ago, I don't remember, I listened to Dark Matter. It fucked my mind up, but that's what we like about Blake Crouch, because this book, Recursion, I still don't really know if I can even describe this book. It's a mind fuck, like for real. If you like time travel, parallel universe, but the characters like remember, I don't even know how to describe it. So basically there's this one character and she is a scientist and she creates this chair, trying to develop a chair for dementia patients with Alzheimer's, to kind of help them keep their memories. So it doesn't help them get back any memories, but it helps keep what they already currently have. And this chair design that she made gets into the wrong hands, and someone actually figures out that, oh, you can actually sit in this chair and go back into one of your memories and start a new time loop. So, or a new time thread. Again, bad guys get a hold of this chair, and it's this same, like, I'm trying so hard to describe this. Hold on. I'm confusing myself right now, okay? It's a good book. I don't know what else to say. Listening to it was wonderful. I think I would have liked to listen and read at the same time. I like looking at words while I listen, and I think that would have helped me a little bit absorb some of the information. 3.5 out of 5 stars. It'll get your brain working. It was entertaining. I liked it. Go pick it up. The next part of this whole video, I'm gonna mush together because it's a series and I've read them throughout the month, so I didn't necessarily read them in this order. But I'm gonna talk about Kindle Unlimited because I recently got Kindle Unlimited and I use it on my phone. One of my friends at work convinced me to get it, and I thank her every day because I am obsessed. So let's go over the 2 series that I read this month through Kindle Unlimited and why I love them so much. I ended up buying them because I loved them so much, okay? So we're gonna talk about the first series that I read. The first series that I read was Psycho Shifters. I'm gonna hold one book because I don't wanna hold 3. The first book was Psycho Shifters, the second book was Psycho Fae, and the third book was Psycho Beasts. Psycho Shifters by Jasmine Moss. Okay, let's talk about the plot and then I'll get into my feelings, okay? In this world, you get tested at the age of 18 by dripping a drop of blood into this lake. And if it turns a certain color, you're either labeled as an omega, a beta, and an alpha. And if you are an alpha, you kind of are that. You are an alpha. You have the most power that anyone in this world could have. And betas and omegas are kind of like servants to alphas. But Sadie is the first female alpha that this world has seen. And this is a reverse harem series. And I did not know that I liked reverse harem so much. I am a monogamous girl. I have a husband. We've been together for 6 years and I love him. But wow, when one character is drooled over and fought over by 4 different men, excuse me, I loved it. And you know, that doesn't mean I want this in my real life, but I think we all read books, or most people read books, to escape their real world, right? So of course, if there's a book with 4 men who are drooling over this one hilarious main character, I'm gonna eat it up, okay? Judge me if you will. We have Sadie, she's our main female. Then we have 4 men. We have Jax, Cobra, Asher, and Xerxes. All 4 of these men have very, very different attributes and personalities and attitudes towards Sadie. I'm not going to get into each and every one of them, but I do just want to say they all like her, love her in different ways. This book actually is a really good slow burn. There's not a lot of smut in the first book at all. There is some in the second and more in the third, but it's really the plot that gets you. I thought Sadie was one of the funniest main characters I've ever read. She made me laugh out loud, actually laugh out loud multiple times. She's very self-deprecating. She degrades herself often, and she definitely needs like therapy, but she has this personality that kind of draws you in and makes you want to become her best friend. Like, she is so funny. She's been through a lot. She's really traumatized and scarred, and you find out why very early on in the series. The one part that I didn't like was how modern the slang was. She would just use like current TikTok slang, and I was like, meh, I don't love that for this book because I don't really like mixing my world with other worlds, if that makes sense. I don't want to go too much more into the series. I think you just need to pick it up. And I did end up rating each book in this series 4, and then the last book I rated 4.5 out of 5 stars. There were some scenes that were cringy in it, but I still loved it. I have the first 3 books, but I'm just gonna hold up the first book. I recently bought these, so again, I read them on my phone. Broken Bonds by J. Bree. A reverse harem also, and I'm gonna compare it a little bit to Psycho Shifters, what I just talked about, because it's like Psycho Shifters in the fantasy sense. Like, the fantasy is very, very similar, but this one is a little bit more serious. Like, in those books, the Psycho Shifter books were a little more funny. They were light and humorous. There was some dark stuff, but it was more light. This is more dark. Like, there's not a lot of parts in here that make me laugh out loud. The main character is kind of similar, but she's not as self-deprecating. But our main character, Oleander, or Ollie, she has 5 bonds, okay? And she is the central bond, and she has 5 men who are bonded to her. And you have Knox, North, Griffin, Atlas, and Gabe. All of which also have different, very, very different personalities. I'm on book 5 right now, and there are 6 books, and I'm liking it. After book 3, I was kind of like, okay, I need a break. So I read book 4 really, really slow, and I think I'm gonna read book 5 pretty slow because it's kind of the same plot throughout all of the books. Basically, in this world, when you turn a certain age or when you get your blood tested, you kind of find all of your bonds and you kind of move in with them and you bond with them. And Ollie, at 13 years old, was involved in a car accident. Ends up getting her blood drawn. Like, she's in the hospital, they draw her blood, and she gets put in this system. And the hospital's like, here are your bonds, like, these are your men. And she's 13. And something ends up happening. We don't know what it is. I'm not gonna say it because you actually don't find out till like the second book. So the first whole book, you're wondering, like, why did Ollie run away? So Ollie ran away from the hospital once she found out who her bonds were. Her bonds are mad, okay? Ollie's on the run for about 5 years. She's 18 at the time that the book starts, but she was 13 when she ran away. And her bonds, when I tell you they are mad, like, they are unnecessarily angry at this girl for the first book. Like, no one likes her in the first book. Like, her whole community hates her because they're like, you're the bond that ran away. And obviously she has her reasons, and you find out her reasons later, but it's a little upsetting at the beginning because you're like, what did she do? What did she do, and why does everyone hate her? But her bonds end up finding her and kind of like forcing her to stay with them. That's all I'm gonna say about the plot. There's a lot more that happens and a lot more that you find out about the community and about the world that they live in, and the politics involved, and each character is different. It's beautiful. I absolutely love this series. Again, I'm still on book 5. I'm gonna pull out my phone for this part, the ratings part, because I can't keep any of the titles straight. So Broken Bonds, the first book, I gave 4 out of 5 stars. Savage Bonds, the second book, I gave 5 out of 5 stars. Blood Bonds, I gave 3 out of 5 stars. And book 4, I also gave 3 out of 5 stars. The next book, Under Locke by Mariana Zapata. I have a whole reading vlog on this, so I'm not going to talk about it, okay? But I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. If you want my full review, just go watch that vlog, please. It didn't do very well anyway. My reading vlogs usually don't, so if you want to go watch it and you want to know my review, just go watch that video. After Under Locke, I ended up reading a very, very dark book on Libby. I listened to it again after I listened to Recursion. I was like, okay, what's the next audiobook I can find? So I went on Libby and found my Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. I just want to say up front, I did not rate this book on Goodreads. I basically gave it 0 out of 5 stars. I just didn't rate it because it was a beautiful book, but a beautifully fucked up, gross disaster of a book also. But I do feel a little icky giving it a rating at all. It is fiction, but it does seem a little too personal to the author for me to just give it a rating. This book is about Vanessa. She is a teenager who goes to a boarding school and is involved with her 42-year-old teacher. And she doesn't realize that she's being groomed. So you're kind of getting flashbacks of the past of when she was in this boarding school in the present of when she's an adult, kind of struggling with what she went through, and she doesn't know what she went through was not okay. She was a 15-year-old girl and she thought that they were in a serious relationship when that's just not the case. And it's a very sad, gross, like it's not a good, it left a very sour taste in my mouth when I finished, but I did really like the writing style and I liked listening to it. It did make me cry. Like it was a sad book and I don't recommend it to anyone. It's kind of like A Little Life. I never would ever recommend A Little Life to anyone. That book, I didn't even rate A Little Life. Like that book was terrible in like a very beautifully written way. It's just kind of fucked up. So I would never recommend it to anyone. My Dark Vanessa did win a few awards and it's a very good book. It just kind of tasted bad. Like it just didn't make me feel good. But if you want to read it, then do. Yeah. What book are we on? I don't even know what book we're on right now. I think we're on book 12, I think. Okay, so let's talk about the 12th book. Was Frost by C.N. Crawford. And this book I was expecting a lot more from. I saw this book on Bookstagram and thought the cover was pretty, so I bought it. And I don't really like bachelorette styled books. This book is based off of a fae character in a modern world. Our main character, Ava, is from the fae world. She is fae, but she grew up in the human world. But on one of her birthdays, her current boyfriend breaks up with her due to some stuff. Okay, that's the first chapter. It was a little cringy. That night, she basically gets approached by the fae king and says, do you want to be in my reality TV show where I find a wife? Because I need a queen, the fae world is dying, blah blah blah. It was not my favorite book ever. It was really cringy. In my opinion, like my preference, no fae book should have modern slang. It just wasn't good. The second book comes out at the end of February, I believe, and I don't think I'll be reading it. I'm not sure yet. But I did give this book 3 out of 5 stars. I'm pretty sure I could give it 2 out of 5 stars now that I'm thinking about it. 3 seems a little generous. I really didn't love this book. Only 2 more books, okay? So the next 2 I'm just gonna bring down. I reread A Court of Thorns and Roses, and I grabbed my pretty editions just so I could hold it a little bit, you know? I reread A Court of Thorns and Roses with my husband. My husband, Brock, read A Court of Thorns and Roses. Now, I'm not gonna tell you guys anything about my reread or about Brock reading it because I have a video coming out next week. So if you guys want to watch that video, and if you guys want Brock to read the second book, that video has to get 4,000 views before he reads the second book. So please, I am dying for him to read the second book. We all know the first book is not the best one. It's not the best one. We know why, okay? We know why, and I don't want to say it because Brock might watch this video. I need him to read book 2. Like it's not a want, it's a need, and I want you all to go watch that video next week when it comes out. Please help me out, please. My reread of this, I'm just gonna tell you the rating. When I read this the first time back in 2020, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars because I didn't know what was coming. But the reread was boring as fuck and I didn't remember it being this boring. So I gave it 4 out of 5 stars because this one just doesn't compare to the other books in this series. In the last book that I just finished this morning, that I read was The City of Ember by Jean Duprow. And I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. It's a middle grade book. I did vlog it, so that actually went up yesterday if you're watching this today. A cute reread. I read this back in elementary school and I remembered it and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to pick that up again. I don't know when or if I'll read book 2, but if I do, I might vlog that experience as well. That is it for my January wrap up, and I had a very, very successful month. I'm really happy. I do think I read more books because of that audio book thing that I'm gonna start doing. These are all of the videos that I filmed in January. If you want to go watch them, they are all linked down below. Thank you guys for tuning in. I will see you in the next video. Peace.